Xiao Yu, you want to record, right? Right. So please take note. When you submit your answers to your tutorial, right, you label it like that. Right. Give me your name, the tutorial number, right? Say tutorial 2.3, right? And then this part here, BE, right? Name, tutorial number, then BE, space, space, space. Okay. Right. I will now talk about lecture 5. Right. We stop here, right? I stop at 3A. Right. I was talking about this case, right? Remember, I finish here. Right. Now I'll talk about 3B. Right. So fair dealing, right? So basically must deal fairly and objectively. Right. So the keyword is fair and objective. All right. You must be fair and objective when you are doing all this. Right. So we are here, fair dealing, right? So must deal fairly and objectively with all your investment actions. Right. So we are talking about fair treatment when we are doing all this. When we are recommending or taking any investment actions, right? So being fair, right, is important, right? So the objective is to maintain confidence of the investing public, right? So only through fair treatment of all parties can our investment management profession maintain the confidence of the investing public. Right. So why do we need to ensure fair dealing? Right. Because there's always we are all human beings, right? There's always this issue of favoritism. There are certain people we like, certain people we don't like. It always happens, right? So there's always this potential for favoritism. Certain people you will maybe give better quality services. Some people you give priority, so the timing, and some people you like, you allocate, to them the more profitable opportunities, right? So basically, we must take care, not to discriminate, right, against any client, when we disseminate investment recommendations or taking investment action. right? So we must not discriminate, right? So this is what fair dealing is about. All right. Right. So fair dealing, right? So do we need to ensure equally? That's a key word, equally, right? So no. Why? Because it is actually impossible, to reach all clients exactly the same time, right? You may disseminate email, but not everybody open the inbox at the same time, and you cannot call everybody at the same time, right? And even if you post something on your website, right, not everybody may access your website straight away. And fax, right, you cannot fax or wire everybody immediately, right? So basically, it is impossible, right, to do it equally. And moreover, right, each client is different, right? Each client is unique, right? Each client has their own investment criteria, investment objective, right? So not all investment opportunities are suitable, right, for all clients. So that means you don't need to ensure equal treatment. Okay, but fair and equal, you know, are two different words. Right, and then provision of premium services, should we do that? Yes, if they're willing to pay higher management fee, Yeah, yeah, I mean, you should offer to everybody, but not everybody wants premium services, right? And not everybody can afford premium services. So it depends, right? So in other words, there will be some differentiation, however, right? But differentiation must not disadvantage or negatively affect clients, right? You must be fair to everybody. I mean, it's up to them whether they want to take up these premium services, right? So to ensure you are fair, right? Different service levels should be disclosed to clients. You let them know, to clients and prospective clients, everybody. And the key part is must be available to everyone who wants it, and are able to pay for it, right? So in other words, right, different service levels should not be offered selectively. So that means you must not discriminate, right? This part here, meaning to say you must not discriminate. All right. Right. So investment recommendations, obviously, I mean, they're provided by, you know, people who are employed by these firms, right? So these firms will have different names, right? Slightly different functions, right? So they are just variants, right? So you may have firms in investment counseling, you may call it counseling, advisory, or consulting, or investment banking, or brokerage, or insurance, right? Because insurance companies still have some investments as well. All right. So basically, investments in different forms. So basically, what is an investment recommendation? Right. A recommendation is basically just an opinion, expressed by that investment specialist, right? So they will tell you whether you should buy or sell or hold, right? Whether you buy, whether you should sell, or whether you should hold any security, right? A given security. So this security can be stock, a derivative, any sort of derivative, any sort of investment assets. Right. So how are investment recommendations disseminated? So initially, right, it should be, you can use a detailed research report. This is public information, right? Because I mean, such report, right? Information is dynamic. It changes all the time. right? Because it changes all the time, you must have an update. So either you add or subtract, from a recommended list. All right, so this is written, right? And this is oral. It can be oral, by telephone, or face-to-face meeting. Right, so basically investment recommendation, right, is distributed to anyone outside the organization, right? So basically it's a communication for general distribution under this standard 3B, fair dealing. So what is meant by fair dealing, right? So that means ensure all clients have a fair opportunity to act, right? Fair opportunity to act. That's the meaning, right? So how do you do that, right? Because clients depend on your investment recommendation. So in other words, your dissemination is important, all right? So your dissemination should be uniform, right, and equitable, all right? You try your best to be uniform. You try to disseminate all at once, right? Obviously, there are some practical difficulties, okay, because of timing and different methods of communication with various types of customers and clients. Okay, so this dissemination, right, is very important. It's actually more important or more critical when you make changes to a recommendation, right? Because right, I'm saying, right, these investment recommendations can be dynamic in the sense that they changes all the time because the situation changes. So changes to recommendation. You recommend, then later you may change. So there's a subsequent update, right? It is still a recommendation. Okay, so subsequent changes, right? So communication of subsequent changes are even more critical, right? That's what I'm saying. Right. So now investment actions, right? So we all know, investment actions, right? When there's some parties buying or selling, right? And if the volume is quite substantial, right, it can affect market value of the stock. Okay, so in other words, we should distribute new issues or secondary offerings to all clients for whom the investments are appropriate. So the keyword is appropriate. Okay, so you distribute only to clients who are, so the issue of suitability comes in, the other standard, appropriate in a manner consistent with the block allocation policies of firm. So probably you have certain block allocation policies, to allocate, right? So you could ensure these policies are fair, all right? So if the stock is hot, there will always be oversubscription. That means the demand will exceed the supply, right? So if there's oversubscription, right, there should be proration. All right, so that means not everybody gets what they want. So it's prorated, probably according to the existing stock holdings. That's one way. All right, so and usually it's prorated according to existing stock holdings. All right, so you need to prorate. Right. So obviously you must take care not to be biased, right? You must not be biased because we always have multiple relationships with different clients, right? So here now institutional clients are big clients. So if you have relationship with certain institutional clients, right? This means big money, right? So when you are talking about big bucks, right, you would tend to be biased, right? So you must take care not to be biased because we are always involved in multiple relationships. We always are. So usually these multiple relationship with will have different interests, and these interests may differ, and so you have conflict of interest, all right, with all these multiple relationships. All right. So, and then to be fair, you must disclose what your allocation procedures are. So everybody knows that. So, you try to make it public, transparent. Everybody knows, right? So, for example, right, you must make bona fide, right? This is bona fide. Bona fide means in good faith, right? In good faith, right? Bona fide is in good faith as opposed to mala fide, right? Mala fide, mala malafide, right? The same word, the same second word. Malafide is in bad faith. So bona fide is in good faith, right? So this word is good faith, right? Must make, public distribution of hot issues in good faith. That's what it means. Bona fide. Right. So these, recommended compliance procedures, right? This would help you give suggestions as to how to improve the situation, in your case studies. Okay, so you need to pay attention to this as well. Okay, these are just suggestions, right? So if you limit the number of people involved who are privy to the fact that a recommendation is going to be disseminated, right? So that means you lessen the chance of some of favoritism in a way, right? So that means dissemination of information is going to be fairer, right? If you limit the number of people involved, right? The second point, right, shorten the time frame between decision and dissemination, right? So this helps, right? Perhaps you can do a short summary report if necessary, right? If you have meetings on the same day, right? Okay, so if all right, so the shorter the time, the better. Okay, so this is to prevent favoritism again, or dissemination of or selective dissemination of information. Okay, because these two combine, it must combine, right? Right, and then publish personnel guidelines for pre-dissemination, right? Personnel guidelines as to what they should do before information is disseminated. So probably you can implement guidelines that prohibit personnel, right? These people, these staff, right, who have prior knowledge of an investment recommendation, right, from disseminating or from discussing or from taking any action on the pending recommendation. So this is an example of a guideline. Right, and obviously, right, if you can do this, this is even better. Try to ensure simultaneous dissemination. Okay, right, and in addition to this, right, you should time the announcement or the dissemination to time it in such a way to avoid placing any client or group of client at unfair advantage relative to other clients. Right, so basically you can use trading restrictions until the recommendation is widely distributed. All right, so this is what is meant by simultaneous dissemination. Right, and then maintain a list of clients and holdings. Right, maintain a list of clients and holdings. Right, so you know what they hold. Right, so there's always update. Right, So you have this list and the holdings, so you will know who to contact in the event of any change in investment recommendation. So in other words, this is to facilitate notification of customers or clients of a change in investment recommendation. All right. Number 5. Number 6, you can develop, these procedures, right? These written trade allocation procedures. It must be written down, right? This point is important because this is to ensure fairness to advisory clients, right? Both in priority of execution of orders and in the allocation of the price, say, obtained in execution on block order trades, right? And also, this point is to ensure timeliness. Timeliness, everything in time and efficiency in the execution of orders, right? Also, this would also ensure accuracy, right, uh, of your records. That means that means you are the investment advisor, your records as to what are your trade orders and what are your client account positions. All right. So this is actually quite detailed. Number 7, right? So disclose trade allocation procedures. You must disclose. You develop, you must disclose, let everybody know. Right? Basically, in other words, right, this is to show how clients' accounts are selected to participate in an order, how clients are selected. Right? So that means clients know that it is fair because clients would know your trade allocation procedures. They know how you select which client get what security, right? And how the amount of security for each client account is bought or sold and how it is determined. All right. Number 7, right? After doing all this, right, you must review. So you must establish a systematic account review, right? Basically, this procedure is to ensure that no client is given preferential treatment, right? And that the investment actions are suitable for the account's objective, right? So systematic account review of each individual client. Right. Last, you disclose levels of service. So you let every client know that you have different levels of service, right? This is to be fair, right? Because different levels of service should not be offered to clients selectively, right? If you do it selectively, that means you're discriminating. And if you're discriminating, that means you're not fair, right? So you let everybody know. All right. Right, now I'll talk about some case studies on freebie. Right, this guy, Bradley, right? He's well known and respected, right, in the computer industry. So during research, he found that a small, relatively unknown company, right, whose shares are traded over the counter, has just signed significant contracts with some of the companies we follow. So this is material information. So after a considerable amount of investigation, right, Amis decides to write a research report on the company, and so he recommend purchase. That means it's good. So while the report is being reviewed by the company for factual accuracy, right, while doing this, right, so Amy schedules a luncheon. So he schedules a luncheon with several of his best clients, only his best clients, to discuss the company. So he's letting the cat out of the bag, right? So at the luncheon, he mentions the purchase recommendation. He mentioned action, right? He mentioned the purchase recommendation scheduled to be sent early the following week, right? The recommendation was only scheduled to be sent early the following week. And he mentioned this purchase recommendation to all the firm clients. right, before it was sent out. All right, so so if I were to set this as a tutorial question, right, you just practice, uh, writing what standard 3B is about fair dealing and the essence of 3B, right? And then talk about what happened, right? And the implication of its actions, all right? So that means, I mean, the information is material, right? Significant contracts. He has divulged the significant information before it was supposed to be sent out, right? You should write like that. And so he has violated 3B. Right, so now, so the issue is about selective disclosure. So if you practice selective disclosure, right, he is in violation of standard 2B, fair dealing. He is not being fair and objective. Right. So now this is just a comment, right? It's just a comment. This is not the answer. So you should practice writing the way I show you just now, right? So this is basically just a comment. Yeah, he has, because he disseminate the purchase recommendation to the clients, right? Launch a week before, right? Right before it's sent out to all clients, right? So and then moreover, this is selective disclosure, right? This is not fair. Right, one more case. Right, Spencer, he's the president of XYZ, moves his company's growth-oriented pension fund to a particular bank, primarily because of the excellent investment performance achieved by the bank's commingled fund. Right, commingled fund, that means it's something like many assets commingled together, and probably this fund invests in you know a parcel of assets, right, commingled, right. So a few years later, Rivers compared the results of his pension fund with those of the bank's commingled fund, right. So he started to learn that even though the two accounts have the same objective and similar portfolios, his company's pension fund has significantly underperformed the bank's commingled fund. So questioning this result at his next meeting with the pension fund's manager, right, Rivers is told that as a matter of policy, when a new security is placed on the recommended list, Morgan Jackson, the pension fund manager, first purchases the security for the commingled account and then places it on a pro rata basis for all pension fund accounts. All right. Similarly, when a sale is recommended, the security is sold first from the commingled account and then sold on a pro rata basis from all other accounts. Rivers also learns that if the bank cannot get enough shares, especially the hot issues, right, to be meaningful to all the accounts, its policy is to place the new issues only in the commingled account. So, in other words, he is quite being selective, right? So only the commingled account, right? So seeing that Rivers is neither satisfied nor pleased by the explanation, Jackson quickly adds that non-discretionary pension fund accounts and personal trust accounts have a lower priority. Again, that's discrimination on purchase and sale recommendation than discretionary pension fund accounts. All right. So there's two parts here. Lower priority. You can see here. There's discrimination. Furthermore, Jackson states, right, the company's pension fund had the opportunity to invest up to 5%. Right, up to 5%. So again, this may, be some sort of discrimination. So in other words, there's something which is not very fair here, right? It shows that the bank does not treat all customers fairly, right? So basically, Jackson is giving priority to this commingled account, right? And so here there's some evidence of discrimination as well. All right. Right. So this is about fair dealing between funds. So he's not treating all the funds fairly. Right. So obviously it's not fair, right? We know, right? It's not fair. Does not treat all customers fairly, right? Because she's giving priority, you know, to certain funds over certain funds, right? Right. Okay. This part here, right? Giving priority. So that means, I mean, to be fair, she must execute orders on the systematic basis that is fair, right? The keyword is fair. In addition, right, these trade allocation procedures are not disclosed. So in addition, should be disclosed when they become clients, right? But again, right, so this key point here, right, even if you disclose, the policy is still unfair, right? As long as you're unfair, despite disclosure, you have violated 3B. All right, is that clear? All right, so I hope you can just practice because in the past, a lot of some of the better students, they just practice writing. They just practice and practice. So I've shown you how to write properly, and I hope you will benefit from what I've said. All right, are there any questions? We will end it. We will end our session now. Any question? Right, if there's no questions, we'll call it a day. Bye for now. Have a good day, everyone.